Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Colony Drop, a Gundam podcast. My name is Brian.
And my name is Isaac. This is your favorite Gundam podcast where we talk about anything and everything that's related to Gundam, whether that's Gundam music, like the intros and outros, Gunpla, which are the Gundam models, anime series, OVAs, movies, lore, concepts, ideas. We do it all, Brian. Isn't that right?
That is correct. And here's a little fun fact for the Colony Drop listeners. Some people may think that our intros are pre-recorded and we just use the same one over and over. I can say nay, because Isaac and I just recorded the intro for the Anime Expo Chibi episode, which will probably go up before this one. Yeah. But we re-record them every single time, Isaac. We've done 129 intros.
Wow. Can you imagine starting an episode of Gundam and like the guys saying it differently each time?
Yeah, like, it's exactly what's happening.
All right, let's see. The humans are in space colonies, okay, and then whiz bang, green ships show up and they start blowing people up, and then Federation.
He's just exhausted.
Yeah. He's like, all right, you know what's going on. There's bad guys and lasers, all right?
Let no one say that we do not put effort into the intro, because nary a one. There might be one a long time ago where I had to use the same one because something went wrong. But I wouldn't even be able to tell you where it is. So if you can find it, I'll mail you a prize. I don't know.
You know what, Brian? We put so much effort into our intro that we hired a specialist to create a new intro song that was a little less 8-bit, a little less tipping our hat that, you know, we're obviously millennials that grew up on like video games you have to blow into.
Anyway, Isaac, a new Gundam show just came out on Netflix. Have you heard about it?
I sure have. Is it possibly animated in a style akin to a Final Fantasy cinematic?
That would be the one.
Surely you must be talking about Gundam Requiem for Vengeance, now showing on Netflix.
That is correct. It is a one-season show, 6 episodes. Isaac, they all dropped on the same day in classic Netflix fashion on October 17th, 2024. The log line is 11 months into the one-year war in UC 0079. Top Zaku 2 pilot Captain Solari faces the Earth Federation's new lethal weapon, the Mobile Suit Gundam. And it was also animated with Unreal Engine 5.
Wow.
For better or worse.
Well, that explains the look.
If you hear that, you'd be like, yep, that makes sense based on what I watched.
Yeah, there's almost a divide when you're watching this show. And by that I mean the combat and like the vehicles themselves. Sure, looks great. I really enjoyed it. The people, though, I don't want to say Uncanny Valley so much as it's like a lot of that sort of Japanese RPG cinematic intro movie look where it's the people look like they're, you know, glazed with sugar or something like that. There's something about their skin when I look at it. I'm like, oh, you look like a Krispy Kreme donut or something. A little shiny. Most people aren't that shiny.
Just a bunch of humanoid Krispy Kreme donuts walking around.
These are Isaac metaphors. You'll understand them if you've been listening for a while.
That's a pretty good way of putting it. There's really no getting around it. I mean, the human parts, they just look a little off. And I agree. I don't know if Uncanny Valley is the right word. It's just very video game cinematic is probably the right way. And actually, some of the characters even have Final Fantasy hair, like the Doctor.
Yeah.
And then also when Yuri shows up, I mean, his hair is very Final Fantasy in this as well. So
yeah, I mean the characters look themselves are very modern Final Fantasy. You know, we got guy with silver hair and earrings. Right. We got guy that's got like, you know, he wears a monocle thing, glasses. Guy
girl
with green
pink
glasses.
Hair.
Yeah, girl with pink. It's very by the numbers. You know, unique looking Japanese RPG characters, which isn't necessarily bad. I just feel like animation wise, maybe it's because, you know, my brain's like, look, this is Gundam, it needs to look a certain way, and now we're seeing it like this. It's like, okay, you have to get used to it. Give it a chance, get used to it. It's different though. Your brain's gonna know it's different.
Yeah, I mean, there was even that one Black Zeon commander. I don't think we've ever seen a Black Zeon commander before.
No, he was leading from the front, wasn't he, Brian? He was in his little command APC.
But yeah, it's kind of like the thought I was trying to come up with a way to describe it, and a lot of it, especially when they were in areas that were supposed to be like a town or something like that, it was like I was watching a video game, in that the towns are populated, but they're empty at the same time. because there's only like the right number of people that are necessary for the story to be there. And I think that's because CG tends to have a lot less life than like hand-drawn animation. And in situations like this, it shows. Like things just kind of come out of nowhere. Like how many times in the show, Isaac, did they get ambushed like out of nowhere? Like they were just driving down the street and then boom, like all of a sudden there's just a battalion of the enemy. Like no, how did they like not see each other?
Not even that. How did they not hear each other? Because like
right.
In half of these battles, there's like a group of Type 63s, or I think they say they're actually Type 60s, whatever.
Type 61s.
Okay, 61s. There you go. Fighting like Magella attack tanks. So these aren't exactly silent hovering vehicles, but they still manage to like get the drop on each other. You know, like they're going on a patrol or whatever, and then like just around the corner is like a tank that starts turning, and there's like, oh, enemy.
Yeah, and I think you could maybe convey that silence or lack of silence a little more in a non-CG, I don't know, atmosphere or something. But anyway, I agree. There also felt like a lot of the lip flaps were kind of off. It was just very strange.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it looks like it's, you know, a bad dub, but it's just the way certain mouths move, which is, you know, that's kind of just how video game lip animation usually goes, right? It's always our idea of how a mouth should move, but again, it's not the actual matching of it. That would probably cost them way too much money to actually have an actor, you know, or an actress use their mouth to start mimicking, and then they just kind of copy over that with the Unreal Engine, but no. So this is what we got.
Yeah.
But, you know, this might be getting ahead, but I had a good time.
Oh, yeah, I generally enjoy the show. I think the CG for the humans, though, is going to be by far the biggest criticism that you will see about it online. Like, if you go read about it, pretty much everything you read is going to be like, everything else pretty okay, and then, but wow, the humans not so great. So that's kind of what you're going to get. But yeah, generally, Isaac, I actually pretty enjoyed the show, maybe except for the end. We'll get there in a second. But,
oh boy.
Yeah, that's the other big criticism of the show.
You got a lot to say to the captain, don't you, Brian?
I do. I don't really want to recap the show because there's only 6 episodes and people can go watch it.
Yeah.
So why don't we just trade off on our discussion points as usual? So I'll go first. Isaac, we're told that our main characters, or at least initially, the Red Wolf Squadron, the Red Wolves, that they took out 3 fleets at Loom.
Ah.
Is that purposely vague? Like, what does 3 fleets mean? Does that mean 30 ships? Does that mean 3 ships?
Yeah, I'm glad you caught that. That was such an interesting thing to say. And then to sort of have the obvious fact of the matter that if they're space combat pilots and now they're on Earth, like, is this the right place to put space combat pilots that are so good at taking down ships?
Right. Because we've seen in other series that they are not there. It's a whole different game, right? Earth, space.
Not only that, but like, I mean, Dozel's still in space at this point, right? Like, why are they here? Unless, who knows what they did? What leader they pissed off where they were told to go to Earth?
Solomon and Zaku could have used the Red Wolves, apparently.
Yeah, but getting back to your question specifically about what do they mean 3 fleets? Loom, whatever you're going to pronounce it, had a large amount of ships, a massive amount of ships. So I imagine that was essentially just a grouping of multiple ships, although depending on if you believe Origin, that all technically was Tianim's fleet. It's called Tianim's fleet, right?
I believe so.
I'm pretty sure that was his fleet. So I'm guessing this was a large group of ships, and it was actually composed of multiple fleets, and whoever was tracking who's killing what was able to correctly identify that the Red Wolves took down 3 fleets, which, no disrespect to the Federation, but isn't saying a lot because this was the first showing of mobile suits, and they mopped the floor with the Federation.
What is it? The phrase "shooting fish in a barrel"?
Yeah, if you watch Origin, it's ridiculous how well the mobile suits perform. I don't even think I see a single mobile suit get destroyed.
If you are a mobile suit who gets destroyed, you feel real bad, right?
Yeah, like what shot you? A Lucky Solomon shot, or one of the flunky little fighters that the Federation still uses in space?
Unless it was one of those super Salamuses from Igloo, you know, that sputters along real fast.
Oh god, those are a nightmare. Those are like, they move as fast as like a mobile suit. Yeah,
those are the new type Salamuses, you know.
Oh god, what beasts. That's what I assume they meant by the Battle of Loam and taking down 3 fleets. But for me, I had to go along with it headcanon-wise that, well, either they requested to go to Earth or they were told to go to Earth.
Sure. Things
aren't great at Zeon anymore. There's not a ton of people laying around. You gotta do what you're told. And they were sent here. And Red Wolves, wow, we hardly knew ye. Because they get reduced in number very quickly in this series.
They got dismantled by the Gundam, I would say.
But incredible opening, right, Brian? Beautiful introduction where they drop down from the gauze in what must be a canopy parachute the size of a football field, if not multiple football fields per Zaku, right?
The first episode with the intro for the Zakus, and then the dismantling of the Zakus.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good punch in the gut a little bit. If you thought that these were going to be your friends for the whole series, you were very surprised by the end of the first episode.
Yeah, that was done very well, because you kind of, if you'd read a little bit about it, you'd be like, oh, this is going to be reverse 8th MS team. You know, it's going to be the Zaku side, a bunch of Zaku teams going out. They'll eventually fight the Gundam or something, or a Gundam. Which, yeah, my issue with that is, as you know, I sound like a broken record. Once again, we've added another Gundam to our roster of one-year war Gundams that were apparently running around, doing a lot.
Yep.
Not a fan of that, but I really did enjoy what a showing of hybrid warfare was in the beginning. We had Magella attack tanks. We had the little Zeon APC that you vaguely saw in 8th MS team. We had Zeon infantry, almost what we never see in war. And then, of course, they went up against, Federation tanks, this time Type 61s, which, for all I can tell, there's Type 63s. But yeah, that was great. A lot of Saberfish combat. That was interesting.
Lots of Saberfish.
Yeah, Saberfish are just doing the Lord's work for the Federation in these stages of the war. But yeah, it was a great introduction for us to see the Zeon side, and then of course the inevitable introduction of the Gundam, which I was so glad my prediction came true, where this would be a story from the Zeon point of view, but the Gundam would appear as a monster that would just be nightmarishly powerful. And it was.
It was. I thought it was nightmarishly powerful, but I also felt it did not go overboard in the power like maybe we saw in Thunderbolt. I thought it was appropriately powered for something that has a beam weapon.
Right.
To people who have never seen a mobile suit use a beam weapon before.
Yeah, the Zakus felt noticeably sluggish once the Gundam showed up. Really, their only way to combat it was the Heat Hawk.
Yep.
And even then, they really seemed to be at a standstill. So it was very interesting seeing the Gundam from the Zaku's point of view, and its evil red eyes. Oh, the evil red eyes.
I wrote a note that the eyes kept changing. I can't describe it, but it felt like it had two eye modes or something. Did you notice that at all?
Oh, well, like low setting and then brighter red?
Yeah, maybe. Or like maybe when it would decide to do something else, its eyes would change. Okay. I don't know if that was like an intentional choice or just maybe I was reading too much into it. But
you know what? That could perfectly be headcanon, because as we all know, the Zakus are able to, God knows why, make their eye brighter if they want. Even in like stealth settings, like the middle of a jungle, if a Zaku wants, it can really turn up the red on its eye.
Right. Yeah.
So you kind of have to decide for yourself. Are they broadcasting light because they want to take in, see what it bounces off and get a much clearer image? Or is this an intimidation tactic in combat? So I think it can kind of work for both.
Isaac, I mean, since we're talking about the Gundam, why don't we just talk about its overall design? The Gundam EX, as it's called, maybe they call it the Gundam X, I'm not sure, but it's Gundam capital E, capital X. It was designed by Kimitoshi Yamane, and I assume it's a he. He's the same person who designed the Gundam EZ-8 from 8th MS team.
Shocking.
This Gundam is a little more, as you said, nightmarish than other Gundams. I assume that's on purpose.
Yeah.
How did you think about this design? Because it's a lot different than most Gundams we've seen, especially for Universal Century.
I actually really liked it. It almost felt like behind enemy lines strike mode Gundam or something. It's very good at doing these short jumps that the Zakus really can't really maneuver around.
Yeah.
Sometimes at night, it was almost hard to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, a very nice, lean design. Not as chunky as EZ-8. I liked it. It was very well done.
I got used to it. I wouldn't say it's like my favorite Gundam.
No.
But I think it's suitable for the series. It looks like a bad guy Gundam.
Yeah.
Like something that you're supposed to be afraid of, which they were, I think. So I think that fit the series. I still like EZ-8 more, I think, overall.
Right.
But it's kind of grown on me. It is a weird design. I'll say that.
It's on the short list of Gundams that have demonic red eyes.
So what are your theories about this Gundam? Because we don't really get a whole lot about it other than the pilot is a new type.
Right.
It's as if, Amuro went to military school, kind of.
Yeah.
But, so I guess the Zeons were really screwed, right? Because not only was it a Gundam, but it was also being piloted by a new type. So that's pretty unfair, actually.
Yeah, a confirmed new type.
Yeah. But, like, where did this Gundam come from? Do you think this was a prototype for the ground Gundams that we saw later in 8th MS team? Or, like, because this had like the shoulder cannon, beam cannon. I mean, it was fully outfitted.
My headcanon right now is, look, this thing's in Europe. Looks like it was deployed to Europe. I don't really think we caught any conversation about this thing's been, globetrotting and going to different hotspots. So I'm putting my money on this is European operations, ideally Odessa push Gundam. That's what it's built for. It's going to be part of the effort for Odessa when that time comes. Sadly, it never makes it. But that's why the Gundam's there.
It's a little against Federation normalcy where they knowingly gave the Gundam to the new type kid.
Yeah.
Maybe someone else was in charge of dispatching this one.
I absolutely buy it, Brian, as we saw in 083. If you're high enough in the Federation military, you can kind of run your own little projects, and no one's the wiser. Like Cohen and Yamato and Colony, and even the guy that was on the Birmingham, Admiral Earl Grey. I mean, he's always drinking tea. God. So.
Maybe Revel gave this one to the kid himself, because, I mean, Revel seemed to like the White Base crew. Yeah. So it seems like something he would do, but...
That's very Revel, too. They're like, well, I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but, like, when Matilda bit the bullet, he wasn't exactly, like, locked in his office crying. He kind of went on his day. I assume he had backup Matildas. So I imagine he has backup Gundams.
Just has a whole harem of Matildas.
Yeah, just, all right, bring out another red.
Isaac, I think there was this is just my own thing, but they did call Solari Wolf Mother because she was the leader of the Red Wolves. It was a really missed opportunity to use a Wolf Mother song in the show.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that would have been great. God. I'm surprised she didn't continue it forward and, like, some guy didn't say, what are we, your pups?
There you go. Yeah, they should have had like smaller pup emblems on their Zaku's.
Oh, they're all chibi looking.
Yeah, there you go. How does the Red Wolves stand up as a squad name for you, Isaac? You're the Zeon here, so...
It's a pretty great name. I wish their showing was better. In their defense, though, they fought the Gundam, but they've got some tough competition with like Living Dead Regiment, Midnight Fenrir Corps, Cyclops Team. Name-wise, they're on a match for Cyclops Team, but they're not yet at Living Dead Regiment or Midnight Fenrir Corps.
What about the Midnighters? Because they were in here too, but it's not the Midnight Fenrir.
Oh, yeah, the Midnighters.
Yeah. I thought that was weird. They kind of overlap names with the Midnight Fenrir, but...
Well, I mean, I assume the Midnight Fenrir is far more secretive, right? Because they're under Caecilia, so maybe they didn't know. They're not on the list of rosters when you're typing in what name do you want your team to be.
Oh, sorry, that name is taken.
Hey, look, Midnighters is available.
Let's take it. I did like the Midnighters logo, though. That was pretty cool, like a little, I don't know, wraith thing. That was pretty neat.
Yeah, they were a good team. They were all Guff, weren't they?
All the Guff Customs, yeah. Those were... By the way, Guff Custom knocked it out of the park in this show.
Oh, yeah.
Great showing.
I mean, we've never seen it since 8th MS Team, really, if you think about it. Maybe like in Build Fighters Try or something.
We saw it in MS Igloo. How dare you forget that it was on screen for like 30 seconds, and then one of them like fell over and died right away.
Oh, God. Was it taken out like a gun tank or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well, that does not count. But yeah, it's such a great design, first utilized by Norse Packard, of course, that it's beautiful to see it again. Yeah, it was, and we got 3 of them.
Yeah, top tier Zeon suit for sure. So
perfect, yeah.
I think one of the best things to come out of this show was the concept of the UMRC. That's the medic group that the doctor was with. That has the white armbands that I assume they're neutral and they just treat the injured. I assume this is some sort of UC analog to Doctors Without Borders or UNICEF or whatever. I'm shocked that that's never been used before in the Universal Century.
Me neither. I saw it and I was hoping we'd get the acronym. I assume you have to look it up.
I looked it up and there is no consensus about what it means. They have not said what it means. So I was going to ask you, what should the acronym mean?
It's just like the acronym for Gundam in like Seed and Seed Destiny, right? General United Neutroid Molecular. Oh God, yeah. What's the acronym? I don't even know.
It is UMRC.
UMRC, United Medical Response Corps. Oh, I got it.
Yeah, I like it. I like that.
I knocked it out of the park.
I would believe that for sure.
You can thank me. I'm going to work on the wiki tonight. Entered by Isaac.
Source, my mind.
Yeah, I mean, that was very well done by this series, that, like, we didn't get exposition. You know, like, some pilot didn't say, huh? UMRC.
Right,
UMRC, instead it was just, look, he's a doctor. He's helping everybody.
Right.
Clearly, this is the equivalent of like their Red Cross or something.
Right.
You know, where like if there's a guy with a red, well, at least back in the day, I don't think it works now, but if
Probably
there's a
not
guy
now.
with a Red Cross armband who's like on the battlefield, no one is allowed to shoot him in the rules of war. Like
Right.
he's going to be helping everybody. In the event that he's captured, he's going to be helping your own troops. So he cannot be shot at. Those
Right.
are the rules.
Yeah, I liked it. It was a very good show. Don't tell. Use your context clues. It's not like it was hard to figure out. So, but anyway, I like that. I thought that was a great addition to the lore, and I hope they, make a side story out of it at some point.
Absolutely. Can you imagine the things people in that line of work can see? They've seen so much of the war.
Right.
You know,
Both sides for sure.
Interesting.
So.
Yeah. Okay. So Zeon junkyards, for lack of a
boy.
better term. This is somewhat one of the weaker parts of the story, I think. That Zeon's essentially running junkyards / kind of supply depots, kind of not, because they're really just holding on to junk parts. So I felt like it would have been far better if this was like a mobile base or something like that. But then again, I feel like the purpose of having them go to the Zeon junkyard run by a crabby commander and, only having a couple troops there, really, and a lot of mechanics, was just so that they could put out the Red Wolf Zaku that's all customized with essentially junk.
Oh, 100%.
If you put it to like a main Zeon base, there's no way you'd get it to look like that. They'd put out a much better looking Zaku that looks much more, standard and uniform. So
Right.
this was them very much saying, how could we essentially make a kit bash Zaku cannon? Well,
Right.
it's essentially fixed at the junkyard. A junkyard Zeon runs. So yeah, lore wise, I don't think it's great, but story wise, to get us from point A to point B, sure, Zeon expended the logistics and resources to run a junkyard in the middle of a war.
I agree. I think there's probably several things wrong with the junkyard. I think maybe it makes sense if you control the whole area and you're still in control of it.
Yeah.
But based on what we see in the show, like the junkyard's kind of like one of the last places they have left in the immediate area.
Yeah.
So at that point, I'm not sure it makes sense for anyone to actually stay at the junkyard anymore.
True. Yeah. Exactly.
Right? Because what are you doing with it? You're not supplying anyone around you because they've all been defeated. So you should all leave.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense at all from, using a bit of logic, because why would any troops go to the junkyard for repairs? They should be going to like a main base that has, a landing pad for incoming resupplies and parts and stuff like that and ammunition. The junkyard thing is it's such a bizarre concept. I wonder if this is a holdover from the original plot, which had like maybe a human junkyard. I can totally see them doing like a double Zeta homage. Like Zeon meets some kids at a junkyard and they're lovable and all that stuff.
Got it.
Yeah, it seemed like such a bizarre thing for me to have them include a Zeon junkyard, but it worked. We got our custom Zaku, and
We did.
It's all wacky and it's got take tread armor. Okay.
Isaac's headcanon name for whatever the real name of that Zaku is the wacky Zaku.
Let's just say that the wacky Zaku will not be welcome in the Isaac fleet. When we go over Australia to drop colonies.
So the other part about that I didn't think made sense is like I think it's fine for Rolf Ronay, the guy in charge. I think it's fine for him to be crabby, like that's fine. But I don't think it makes sense for him to be crabby to the point that he does not take in his own troops.
Yeah.
Like turning them away doesn't make sense to me.
Not only that, but like at one point before she's saved by a returning guest character, he was about to either execute or court-martial the captain.
Oh yeah, that part didn't make sense either because Alfie kind of like talked him out of it, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he just went back to being mad at them and was going to kick him out.
Right.
That didn't make sense at all to me. It almost was like they rewrote it, but they like already had the animation done, and so they had to go back to him kicking him out. Like that made no sense. I don't know why we watched 5 minutes of Alfie begging him not to do it and changing his mind, and then he unchanged his mind again.
Yeah, it especially didn't make sense because it happens right after she saves the junkyard. She fights off whoever's attacking it. I think it was the Gundam. Yeah, it was the Gundam in the gym.
You need some sort of defense. He should be begging her to stay.
Yeah, he should give her a medal on the spot or something, So when we get back to Zeon, I'm going to put you forward for the Medal of Heroic Valor or something. Yeah, like you said, it seems like maybe in the writing they were like, okay, he's going to be mean. He's going to be a bad commander. So they were like, okay, well, we have to do this scene so Yuri can show up and
right.
be a hero.
I liked Yuri showing up. That was a good third tier character to cross over that no one would mind if you use them in your show.
Yeah.
Because, if you're the writer, right, you're going to Sunrise and you're like, hey, can I use Amuro? And they're like, no. Hey, can I use Char? They're like, no. Like, can I use Yuri Kellern? They're like, yes.
I mean, it's perfect, too, because it fits, right? I mean,
yeah.
I could imagine him passing through because he was kind of a leader to his troops on, like, the ground level. I could not imagine Makuve stopping at a junkyard.
No, don't think so. Yeah, this is not Makuve's jam, for sure.
No.
Isaac, Major Ralph Ronay, the guy in charge of the junkyard, it was bothering me so much about who he looks like, and I finally figured it out. To me, he looked exactly like Adrian Pasdar. He's the guy that played Gravitron in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, he looks a lot like him. Oh, wow. Yeah, he could play him.
Yeah, he could, right? If there was a live action.
He's even got the mustache. It's just longer hair.
That would be him.
Wow.
I'm telling you. Yeah.
Wow.
And then the other one that really bothered me, which I did tell you offline, Iria Solari, I was like, she looks like someone. And I finally figured it out. She looks like Rhea Seehorn from Better Call Saul, like a slightly younger Rhea Seehorn from Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
Those are my picks for live action Requiem for Vengeance.
They could be related.
See? Especially certain angles. She has a certain look. I think they modeled it after her.
It's the eyes. It's like the intensity of the eyes. Because, like,
yes.
If you watch Better Call Saul, she's not to be messed with, really.
No. You don't mess with her.
She's very on the ball.
Absolutely.
And so is Solari. Okay.
We learned that Solari was a violinist, her and her husband, before he died. It seems like they used to play in concert halls that we're told they were, accomplished. Do you think they played in the Zum City Opera House?
I'm glad you caught that, because when I saw her flashback, assuming that was sort of a flashback / nightmare.
Right.
That I was looking at that and I was like, that looks literally like the opera house that we read about in the assassination of Giranzabi.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, so I would imagine, they, on non-opera nights, they still have to use the concert hall. Yeah. So they had performances of classical music, and she probably played there.
And then did you notice during the flashback, she was wearing a red dress? Again, with the red dress imagery, Isaac. We don't have many females that wear the red uniform, but they put her in a red dress. I know they were going for the blood thing, but it also plays on the red female Zeon attire.
That's true. I mean, at this point, if you think about it, we've seen more women in red uniforms than men.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. But yeah, Char's the only male that we've seen in a red uniform.
And then he liked it so much when he took over Neo Zeon, he wore a red one too.
Yeah. Everybody has to be in red. All right.
That's just out with the green, in with the Daikun red. That's what it's called.
Oh, man. What a nightmarish dream. But yeah. I was half expecting she'd look up and see like Daegwon in like the main box or something.
Oh yeah, me too. I was hoping. Yeah, Isaac, we have to talk about the keys. Yuri gave Solari keys to gyms.
Yeah.
This must be a different universe, Isaac. There's keys. These mobile suits have keys. We've never seen keys before. Ironically, Yuri stole the keys, and then they just used the keys to steal the mobile suits. Do you think that was an in-joke? Like, yeah, we gave him keys finally, but we stole the keys.
I was trying to think, like, is there anything special about these gyms? No.
I mean, I guess they hadn't been around very long, right? Because the first gyms we see in the original are in Jaburo.
Yeah.
Which is somewhat around the same time. I forget the exact timeline, but...
My headcanon personally is, if you remember in the opening stages of the war, this was an igloo. The gym pilots, well, these Federation guys, were able to steal Zaku's, right?
Yeah.
So the Federation kind of learned from that. There's no lock, or there's no keys for Zaku. So
good idea.
Our frontline units, at the least, need to have some type of key system from now on.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. And I don't know how Yuri got them. That's his own side story. But yeah, keys for gyms. Wow, I was very surprised when I saw those.
Yeah, at least they're taking countermeasures. They're now we know they're trying.
Yeah.
Which means, I guess you can always headcanon it in that like Gato also had a key, right?
I mean, I prefer the theory that, well, the war's over. We're in the middle of Australia. Security's light, as they kept on saying. We don't need a key. Yeah. This is an experimental suit anyways,
Sure.
So.
Isaac, I think for merchandise, they should really sell the pocket watch.
Yeah, I can see that. I wonder if they have it already.
I don't know. Any Zeon fan would be happy to have one of them pocket watches, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, the thing, though, is, like, when are you going to wear it?
Well, like, what if you were the guy that came to AX Chibi that had the Zeon tattoo? He would love to, like, just whip out a pocket watch, right?
You could probably wear a vest. I
Yeah.
could see that. Yeah.
Yeah. See?
Man. No, I just did a quick search on my phone. It's not the same.
No.
It's not the same pocket watch. There are Zeon pocket watches, though. Hers had the Zeon symbol, right?
It did, yeah. It was very nice.
Yeah.
And you guys, because every day I get a notification from Premium Bandai that they have another $450 jacket on sale.
God.
I'm just saying, you could sell a $100 pocket watch, and I think you'd sell a lot more than you sell of those $450 jackets.
I think you'd be right. It's far more useful to those of us that live in a warm part of the world. I mean, like in Japan, though, it gets much colder, so
True.
you probably want a lot of different Gundam jackets.
But there are cheaper options, I think. So
Not if you're a Gundam fan.
you have to have that one, just like the one that Fukuda-san wore in the Freedom trailer thing in the beginning.
Load them up on the merch. The fans are going to want to see the merch.
Give him the biggest jacket we've got.
You could even wear a Tekkaden jacket, right, Brian? Oh,
Yeah, we could. I did. I wore a Tekkaden jacket to AX Chibi.
yeah.
Although I don't think you can see me. You can see my Zaku hat.
I regret not wearing a Galahorn jacket.
A big gallant one.
Something like that. Oh, Rustal's cape thing.
Yeah.
Only he wears. Nobody else has those colors.
I feel like the Galahorn jackets were really big. They were like trench coat status.
Pretty much. They were almost like kind of the Aelos thing, where it's like
Yeah.
you're almost reaching the floor.
Yeah. Let's talk about Solari, Isaac.
Oh, Solari. Boy. God, I'm very curious about the transition from music to war pilot. Not only that, but like her husband died, right?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You can't really put in a leave request and say, I want to go back and spend time with my son.
Right. So most people are upset about the CG humans.
Sure.
And they're upset about the ending. And when I say they're upset about the ending, they're upset about the part where at the very end, via monologue, she goes, I decided that I want to help fight to prevent more kids from becoming orphans. So I joined a Zeon remnant group in Africa. And then it just kind of ends. So, one, that doesn't really make sense, because by continuing to fight and be a terrorist, you are creating more orphans by definition, because you're killing people. There's also, they've really not given any context to that statement, Isaac. Does this mean that she was, and here's where I'm willing to give the writers and them a benefit of the doubt. They don't tell us how long she was a Zeon remnant. Does it mean that she was a Zeon remnant in Africa for another month or two before the war ended, and then she went back to space to go see her kid? Or does it mean that she was a Zeon remnant all the way through like 0088, and she's one of the people fighting Judah in the desert in Double Zeta? I feel like they need to give a lot more context here about how long she plans to be a Zeon remnant, because it makes zero sense for her not to go back and want to see her kid in space.
Yeah. I mean, then again, she's been, so traumatized by all the death that happened with the Gundam and the war. Maybe she's just not ready to go home. Maybe she'll always be out there. She's gone, Brian. She's just another victim of the war.
Agree.
Okay.
But then, along those lines, probably a better ending would be that, to your point, she's so traumatized by the fact of what just happened that she should join the UMRC until she can get back to space.
You're right. She should. And ideally, she should have been fighting tooth and nail to get back to space, because,
Correct.
as I told you at the end of the series via text, the fastest way at the end of the war to get back to Zeon is just as a civilian on like a passenger ship.
Right.
The war's over. Sure, it's going to take you some time, but the longer you wear a Zeon uniform after the war, the harder it's probably going to try to be to go through Federation channels to get back to Zeon. But that said, I'm going to say this is actually a great ending, and let me explain why.
Ooh, you're stoking those flames. People already have their pitchforks out.
Put on your fire retardant clothes, and let me explain why this is a great ending to a very good series. This series is a Zeonic series. Zeon, a force of evil, destruction, and death. A space fascist faction were the protagonists in this series, where they faced off against the Gundam and destroyed it, but ultimately lose the war in the end. And this entire war, this 1-year war, and all the battles, all the atrocities, all the death and destruction that's been caused by it, has been at the hands of these indoctrinated, fascist, cruel people that have wholly bought in to Zeon and Zeonic fascism, control, and fight for world domination. So it absolutely makes sense that she, a firm believer in Zeon, in the principality of Zeon, would decide to essentially let her son go, because in the end, her true love is now Zeon. She lives and dies for Zeon. That is the evil of space fascism. That is the evil of the cruelty that she has embraced as part of the Zeonic war machine.
Wow, that was quite the villainous monologue there. I'll give you that.
Am I wrong?
I would be willing to go with that if, to your original point, they told us why she's even in the service at all.
I mean, she's a grunt. She's a Zaku pilot grunt.
But was she drafted into the service by force? Because she's like, oh, I just want to get back to space to see my kid. So why did you even come here?
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of conflicting information, right? Because if you signed up to be a Zaku pilot and go into Loam, I imagine you were gung-ho. You were wearing the Zeon tank top.
Yeah, and you have to be one of the best to even get one of those Zakus at that point, I would imagine.
Right.
Because there's not that many at that stage.
Exactly.
But if you had told me that, yeah, she was such an ardent believer in the cause, and that's why she signed up, then maybe I'd be on board with that. But she complains the whole time that all she wants to do is see her kid, and then and then the Gundam pilot gets killed, and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. That would be a good turn.
Yeah, I feel like there's a difference between what people say and what they do. You can say you're fighting to get back to your son, but when you decide to stay on Earth and go to Africa to join a resistance, well, your son's less of a reality and so much more of a vague idea that you claim that you're fighting for. Sort of a holy grail out there for your quest that's ironically never ending and never going to bring you back to your son. Which is very space fascist, very Zeon. So committed to dying for the cause, dying for the zombies. It's its own tragedy in a way, but I absolutely take it at face value that she said she's staying in Africa to fight, so she's staying in Africa to fight. She didn't say, I'm staying in Africa until, the next train comes by and I can go to a spaceport and go to space. No. She's there to fight. She's probably going to die, and that is her fate. And that was the fate of so many others that stayed with the Zeon remnant, refused to surrender, refused to give up the fight, because that's the nature of space fascism. It's ultimately cruel, self-destructive, and in space.
Well, there you have it, kids. Don't do space fascism.
Yeah, on the playground, if some guy in a trench coat comes up and says, hey, you kids want some space fascism?
Hey, you want to Zeke Zeon? No.
Go get a teacher.
Go get your parents.
Do not let him show you how to do hand signals.
Does he have a weird accent?
Probably.
Which, Isaac, they brought up the Zeon accents again, but we didn't really get to hear what this accent is.
We never do.
I know.
It must be something so bizarre that, like, when it hits your ears, you're like, that person's not from any country on Earth. They skip their consonants or something. I don't know.
Isaac, the last two things on my list. One, when Solari attacks the Gundam kid, or when she asks the Gundam to let them leave, she's like, I don't want to fight anymore. I just want to go to space, see my kid.
Boy.
He's like, well, if I let you leave, then you'll just attack us again, and you started this war. And I was like, oh, that kid's got some facts.
He's
like,
right.
He may be younger than the rest of the cast, but he's right.
Yeah, I mean, it's such BS. Like, oh, we want to stop fighting now. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Too late for that.
Tell that to Australian Isaac in his house that he blew up with the colony.
Australian Isaac's fine, remember? It was just,
Yeah, he got out of bed. He's like, she'll be right.
Just a minor second sun on the surface of the Earth.
Yeah, and then thing number 2, seeing the HLVs dock with the moose eyes, that was cool. Did we see that in Igloo? I don't remember.
No, we never saw that. But then again, the ship in Igloo, I forgot what it was called. Not the Jormungand. Whatever it was called. It was a much different looking than a moose eye, right? It was some type of other special type of ship.
Yeah, the science vessel? Yeah, it was. Yeah, you're right. It was a Jormungand or whatever, yeah. Or maybe that was that the big space cannon?
Yeah, it was something else, like, I don't know, the Scorpio or whatever. Yeah, I absolutely remember in Igloo, their ship comes upon all the HLVs.
The Jotunheim, that was
the Jotunheim, there you go. But in this one, yeah, it was cool seeing them actually dock. Man, these HLVs, they're pretty defenseless.
Yeah. They don't have a lot of weapons. So.
No, and it was cool how they docked, and boy, if you're strapped in there, you're really strapped in there. It's like a reverse Guardians of the Galaxy ride.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're only going up.
Going up.
It was cool seeing the HLVs work. If I'm not mistaken, the gun cannons that we saw towards the end were the same as the ones from Igloo?
Oh,
if not similar, like the custom high speed attack ones.
Oh yeah, the gun tanks. Yeah. I thought the same. I wasn't sure because it's got updated animation and stuff. But I mean, I would say they are in the vein of the ones that we saw in Igloo for sure.
Absolutely. I saw them and I was like, these aren't the regular gun tanks. If anything, they look like a lot like the Igloo ones.
Because man, those Igloo ones kicked ass.
Oh, they were a beast. If they mass-produced those, they might not have even needed gyms.
They're right up your alley, too, Isaac. They're thick, low to the ground.
I even like the flamethrower. What was great, too, well, not so great, I guess, is the gun tanks, they all, line up to bombard the HLV, which is a horrible thing to do with any mobile suits. Like, what are you doing? Just having them all in the line to bombard the enemy, like we're rows of cannon during the Revolutionary War or something.
Or the archers that raise their,
Yeah. Oh God. The Midnighters were there to quickly remind them of their mistake.
Oh, the Midnighters.
Did they die to the last man? No, there was at least one Midnighter left, right?
Well, I think there was at least one, maybe two left at the end when they killed the Gundam. Because one of the Midnighters was one that impaled the Gundam at the end.
Yeah, one Midnight. Yeah, exactly. One Midnighter was there to deal the death blow.
Man, the Goof heat saber or heat rod, whatever, that thing really shined.
Man, that thing's so underrated. We've seen it chop through gyms and gun tanks, and now an actual Gundam.
Like a knife through butter.
Perfect way. Well, so Solari, confirmed new type?
Yes, I believe she's a confirmed new type. And same thing with the new type pilot of the Gundam as well.
How do you feel about their new type signal, which I can have to call the new type whistle?
The new type whistle?
The new type steam kettle that they hear in the background in the kitchen?
I mean, it was definitely more subtle than the normal new type noise, I'll say.
No flash.
I felt like it was a new type flash for the masses that need something more subtle for the Netflix audience.
Sure, yeah.
It was okay. I like the old one, but
I'm trying to think, would there have been a better way to show it? You'd almost have to do a very stereotypical type of half translucent imagery on the screen that's supposed to be their mental view or their precognition, their mind's eye. But I think the whistle worked.
I think it worked, yeah. I think it also worked in the sense that it could have just been that they didn't want to give it away, so they'd use something different.
Yeah, I liked it enough that I'd be okay seeing it again if they did another, not necessarily following her in Africa, but, a similar story.
Sure.
Using the same engine, because, I mean, they already have all the elements and assets, right?
Right.
They were already...
Use them again.
Yeah, is it that hard to pump out more Gundam content? I imagine not.
Just, we need less humans and more Zakus.
I'd be okay with the whole series that we never see the people. That'd be interesting.
Or Zaku, as some of the voice actors pronounced Zaku.
A Zaku.
Multiple times. You gotta clean that up. Come on.
They're people that pronounce it tacos.
Yeah. It'd be one thing if the Federation people called it Zaku's.
Yeah.
But when it's the Zeon...
I also have to say, if you're a Gundam fan, but also a Saberfish fan, this is the series for you. This is Top Gun Saberfish.
You love Saberfish Warfare? Man.
I mean,
Netflix is your jam.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Type 61s in this, Type 63s, essentially. But they get knocked around left and right. But
they do.
Whoa, the Saberfish in this one, they're the hammers from the sky.
They do pretty well, yeah. I also laughed when I saw the tanks, because I was like, oh, it's not a CG Gundam series without a tank.
Yeah, that's how we get the scale. We have to show them the scale by introducing tanks.
Roll the tanks in. Come on.
And we need an obligatory scene where Zaku kicks a tank.
You gotta kick the tank if you're in a mobile suit, right?
God, can you imagine me inside a tank when someone kicks it?
It's not gonna go well for you.
No, that'll be your last memory. God damn it.
I got all this way and I got kicked.
I didn't even get to shoot a shot. Well, I have to say that the combat was extremely well done. Not a moment of boredom either. I guess that's really all owed to the Unreal Engine and how, it's clearly done well for video games. So the explosions and the shooting and all that, it comes off very well on the big screen.
Yeah, I think this is a very important point, especially in the time we live today, where there's so much content to choose from. I was actually never bored watching this show. It always held my attention.
No.
I thought it was very engaging, and the episodes were the right length. They were short enough to where I always wanted more, and long enough that it never lost me.
Yeah, overall, could you even have shaved time? You could have shaved a little bit, maybe.
A little bit here or there, but I mean, it was overall still a pretty short series, so.
Yeah, shorter than 8th MS Team.
Oh, yeah.
So it's definitely on the shorter side if you want to see it. I consider it mandatory viewing if you're a Zeon fan. It was a fun, short ride. Perfect way to spend about an hour and a half. I have nothing bad to say about it.
How many Haros are you going to give it, Isaac?
How many Haros? How many... What else would it be besides Haros? How many HLVs blown out of the sky?
There should be a Zeon Haro, like an evil Haro.
Haru.
Haro's kind of like Zeon Green anyway, so it's a little strange, but...
That's kind of more of a lime, isn't it?
It's a little lighter than Zeon Green, yeah.
Yeah. That shows Amuro was he was a little bit on the fence originally, wasn't he? Maybe.
He's got a little space noid in him, you know.
Like Albert, right? He was
Yeah.
watching from the sidelines and cheering on. Okay.
Yep.
You know what? This was a fun series. I have almost really just such minor complaints about it that I'm going to give it 4.5 out of 5 Haros.
Wow, that's higher than I thought.
Huh?
I'm going to give it 7.5 out of 10 Haros.
Okay.
Again, was very engaging, never bored, always held my attention. I thought there were certain things the characters did that didn't make sense, you know, like the junkyard, and maybe some of the characters, they made really poor decisions, either getting ambushed or making ambushes, or like when the pink-haired girl just like drove through that checkpoint, like that was a horrible idea. It ended poorly. Like, it just didn't go well.
Don't do that.
You could have just deleted the pink-haired girl. I'm not really sure what she added to the series. And while the battles were good, I thought the people did feel a bit uncanny valley, even though that's maybe not the right term. It just felt off, which I do think it's going to bring it down for a lot of people, even if I'm okay with it. The two other detracting things, Isaac, I want to bring up is one, I believe it was the writer said that he was mainly influenced by 8th MS Team and Thunderbolt. And the ending to me might be a little too samey to the ending of 8th MS Team in terms of protecting HLVs.
Yeah. I sense a pattern.
Yeah, it's a little too samey for me, even though the circumstances around it are different. And there's like gun tanks involved. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of this. It's in an urban area. There's goof customs. Like I can tell that you like 8th MS Team.
It's Zeon escaped by the numbers. There's going to be HLVs, things being blown out of the sky, Saberfish.
It wasn't top of my mind when I was watching it, but afterwards I was like, oh, okay, I kind of see what we did here. It really combined War in the Pocket, 8th MS Team, 083, and Thunderbolt, really. You know, you had the sadness of war from War in the Pocket, 8th MS Team, the setup, 083, you had a Gundam Jack. Here we have the reverse, and you kind of had some of that attitude in Thunderbolt. The other thing that kind of ruined it for me, honestly, Isaac, was I think your idea was actually better than the show that we got, which was that the Gundam should have just been Zeon's perception of the actual Gundam.
Yeah.
Like, this is how they see it. It's a monster. I think that would have been more fun. But overall, I thought it was a really good show, and everyone should go watch it, especially because it's only 6 episodes. You're not going to be wasting your time watching the show.
Yeah, it's a great side story because of how little impact it has on the rest of the UC. And also, we don't get a ton of Gundam content.
No. Yeah, you got to support it. So.
Yeah, you have to watch it just so their algorithm can track that, oh, people are seeing this.
Right. Yeah.
Make
more. Go watch it. Go click the love it button, on Netflix.
Give it the thumbs up rating. Yeah.
And hopefully, Isaac, would you watch a second season of this? Because it also could be short on the idea that maybe they have a second half planned.
Maybe, yeah. I'd absolutely see a second season. I'd see where it goes. If we do remnant stuff in Africa, great. If this Gundam pilot had friends and now they're on the hunt in Africa, it's going to be from the Federation side. That'd be cool to see too. I'm always game for UC content.
Isaac heard Zeon remnants in Africa, and he just got so excited because he might get to see some desert-colored mobile suits.
The Tropins. Send out the Tropins.
The desert Tropins. Those tans and oranges, they get Isaac going.
There you go. The browns and little spinner-rooney. Gotta do a spinner-rooney in the middle of the Sahara. There goes the Lion Legion.
Ooh, the Lion. That's a good one. Yeah. The Sphinx.
Squad?
Yeah, like the Sphinx Squad.
There you go.
So okay, you said 4.5. I said 7.5. All right, pretty good show, Isaac. I think everyone should go watch it. So, listeners, let us know your thoughts on the show, particularly about Solari.
Actually, Brian, before we close out, I don't think we've gone far enough into what Papa Bear Brian thinks about Solari just leaving her kid to the Zeon Child Services inside.
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. You can't do that. I'm not sure what's worse. Listeners, if you stayed to the end of our Destiny review, you heard me say that Talia was just unforgivable leaving her kid. She's like choosing to die with Durandal and Ray.
Yeah.
That makes zero sense as a parent. And also, Solari makes zero sense as well. Especially because she's pining the whole time. I want to go back to my kid. I want to go back to my kid. And then she doesn't do it. So either she's gone full space fascist.
Oh, yeah.
Like Isaac said. Another scenario could be, Isaac, that maybe the kid's actually dead. And she has no one to go back to. And maybe it was just like a comfort thing for her. And now when faced with the decision to go home.
Wow.
She didn't do it because deep down she knows that the kid's not there. That could be good too.
That's so much sadder. Yeah, she's telling everybody her kid's still alive and she's fighting for them, and that kid's been dead for a long time. Wow.
We didn't find out how her husband died, right? Did we?
It was a violin accident.
It was a really, what do they call the things you use to play him? It was a really pointy one of those. And
well, what's called a string, or I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. He just got too into it and just sucked himself.
He fell off the stage and, hit his head on a trombone.
God.
But, I mean, I have to double down and say this is the evil of space fascism. She has been fully pulled in. She's a happy, smiling atrocity maker. And, she's absolutely going to abandon her kid for the vain, pointless fight that is the Zeon remnant.
And again, I'm fine with that. I think they just got to give us a little more on the front end then, if that's the road they're going to go down. Because I feel like they were trying to give us things in the other direction where she was kind of questioning it, where they were like, she let the gym pilot go.
Yeah.
And someone was talking about orders and how they're soldiers and they just follow orders. And she's like, yeah. So I think they just got to show us a little more than jumping to the end and being like, well, I told you I wanted to go to space, but I'm actually going to go to Africa with people I don't know and without my kid.
God, can you imagine if they do a sequel and it's about her son years later going to Africa to look for her?
Oh, maybe fighting for the Federation or something. Ooh.
Or, I mean, maybe as a civilian, he goes to Africa looking for her and he gets to witness just the whole continued resistance.
Oh, yeah. Maybe he joins the UMRC,
Oh, wow. And that's his mentor's Katsuga, Dr. Katsuga.
Yep, there you go.
Oh, it writes itself. We did it here at Sunset.
Gave you so many sequels. You could reach us at brian@colonydrop.com.
We got to make a sunset at colonydrop.com or something.
Sunset Productions.
There you go.
When I take over the world, that'll be my shell company name.
If you take over the world, why do you need shell companies?
That's true. Yeah. I'll just be outright with it.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Anyway.
All right.
So listeners, let us know your comments, thoughts on the show. Isaac, take us away into Africa. Here's where I play Africa by Toto.
Good luck, take me away from you.
It's all Isaac a cappella versions, though.
Hey, bless the Zakus down in Africa.
We'll add that to Gundam the Musical.
Oh, that's perfect, yeah. It's about the Zeon remnant.
Would the series have taken on a comedic tone if after she said, I'm going to go to Africa, they faded out with Africa by Toto playing in the background?
Oh, that'd be great. I'm sure Toto would love it because, no one's heard that song in the end credits to a movie since, the 1980s, right?
Someone out there with skills, go edit that in to the end of the show.
Just like that meme of, how everything ends and it goes into, the Transformers ending.
Yes, yes, that's exactly right.
Or, Biden turning and looking, and then, it's the Transformers music.
Rest in peace, Chester Bennington.
Even the Transformers ending would work for the way Gundam ended.
Yeah.
My name is Iria Solari. And this is my message to all Transformers. Dun, 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 dun.
Abandon your children.
Dun, 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 dun. Okay. All right, listeners, before you go to sleep tonight, stand next to your bed, get on your knees, put your hands together, look up at the ceiling, and hail the Red Wolf Squadron.
Good night, everybody.